I read all about you, and you've accomplished so much in your life, and you're just awesome.
You spent 9 years making your dream come true, but it wasn't easy. I read that when 9/11 happened, you had a few setbacks in terms of support from the major studios.
Oh, you have done your homework. You have done your homework, and therefore I will answer you fully and truthfully.
You know, it's funny, you were mentioning every show that I have pictures of down in my office just because it's my memorabilia and it's the fiber of the blanket of Joan Van Ark.
Is there any part of Valin's personality that resembles the real Joan Van Ark? Anything at all?
That's a wonderful question. And believe it or not, I don't think I've ever. Oh boy, you're going to make me verklempt what I thought of.
Well, why shouldn't you be verklempt? I am.
God, thank you so much. I've had such a great time talking to you because you brought things to the surface. Thank you.
Well, RJ, I have to tell you that spending this time with you, sir, has truly been a highlight of my life because you are such a gentleman and such a great talent. Thank you so much for giving me this interview.
I want to tell you, this has been one of the highlights of my career. I've had a wonderful interview with you. As a matter of fact, I would say it's the best.
You said this interview would be the best I've ever done, and you're absolutely right. It's so very, very emotional, and I want to thank you for everything, Harvey. I really do.
Thank you. This has been a great interview. Thank you for being so beautifully prepared.
When I watched you in all of those shows, Policewoman and Love Boat and all those shows, the feeling you gave to me as a fan was that working with the big stars made you feel validated in a way that songwriting didn't do for you back then. Am I right?
I spent a lot of money on therapists, and you're doing a really good job.
You were a member of the club.
I was, yeah, exactly. At least I thought I was.
And yet, here's the interesting thing for me. You felt finally that you had arrived, or you were a member of the club with all these VIPs, but your fans resonated with you because you were on the outside looking in. And that's how we all felt.
Yeah. You know what? I don't remember what I paid my last therapist, but do you mind if I send you a check? We will stay friends. You are an exceptional man, and it's an honor to talk to you.
You know, one of the reasons I wanted so much to interview you is so that I could tell you that as a kid, I was very badly bullied, and your rendition of In My Own Little Corner from Cinderella got me through some of the darkest and toughest moments of my youth. And I just want to thank you for such a hopeful and healing performance.
It's so sweet. Thank you. I'm very moved by that. There are no words for how much that means to me.
I think early fame is a poison, an absolute poison that most people underestimate. That applies to athletes, musicians, actors, anyone who becomes famous early on. I would suggest you see a therapist. I'm serious about that. Harvey, I must say that I appreciate the interview. You're very good, you're very sensitive, you're very insightful, and you ask damn good questions. And you obviously have done your homework. I really appreciate it.
Looking back, both financially and artistically, was your mother correct to stop you from joining Motown?
Nobody had an idea, unless they were some kind of a psychic or something, or prophet, that what was going to happen in the future with Barry and Motown.
I want to quote something that you wrote in your journal at the age of 18. You said, "I have made my choice and am closing the door on an easy, good, normal, happy life. The road in front of me is only one of pain, nervous breakdowns, emptiness, and hollow success." So looking back, I would say that your life turned out way better than you predicted, don't you think?
Well, I was only 18 and a little pretentious, it sounds like to me now.
Well, something really fundamentally sound must have happened in the way you were raised, because your reputation in this industry is that you have consistently been a consummate professional. You have no ego. You're incredibly kind to people. Something worked right.
All those things that you mentioned describe my folks, both of them. Professional, virtually no ego, and very kind. to everybody. Not always kind to each other, but marriage is rough. This was a delightful interview. You're so well prepared. I love that.
Now, you've been in show business literally for your entire life. And so far as I can tell, you never fell into the trap that so many child stars did with substance abuse, emotional breakdowns, even suicide attempts. How did you manage to stay so grounded and stable?
Well, I'd have to say that my parents were a big part of it.
Did your dad ever tell you, son, I'm really proud of your success?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't really remember that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to explain, but the way my dad was, a lot of times my success threatened him. It really did. He didn't want this competition.
You had to strike a balance between focusing on pleasing yourself by doing your best and focusing on outperforming your competitors, which is what you have to do to win.
You don't break world records by thinking, okay, that's my competition, and keeping an eye on them. So you have to have the courage and the guts to leave everybody behind and not worry about what anybody else is doing.
So if you could go back and talk to that young Joan London who was just starting out in the industry, what would you have said to her?
My husband always says that if you took a page out of the Joan London playbook, it would be, whenever anyone asks you if you can do something, just say yes, and then go figure out how to do it.
Well, I want you to know that as a young gay man in the 70s, your song, Be Somebody, really resonated with me and a whole lot of other men in my situation who felt very marginalized. And I'm just so glad I get to thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. As the long shadow of my career gets longer, I more deeply appreciate the service that my songs have been to people who found clarity through the songs.
Lonnie, when Cher's ex-husband, Sonny Bono, died, she said that if she'd known he was going to die, she would have had one last conversation with him to make sure he knew how she really felt about him. Did you ever feel that way after Bert died?
Yes. I wish I had had a last conversation with him because he was pretty down at the end.
Your portrayal of Hot Lips is very different from Sally Kellerman's portrayal in the movie. Your characterization of Hot Lips was multidimensional, and she was someone that the audience could identify with because she seemed more human despite the tough exterior. Whose idea was it to shape that character the way you did?
Oh, well, I'm the one who did it. But here's the thing. I never saw the movie. That's kind of a piece of trivia that people often laugh at. I always found myself in her defense. She had about 22 minutes screen time. I had 11 seasons. I could really dig into that character. I really find out what made her tick.
So how much of Olivia Walton is there in the real Michael Learned?
A lot, I think.
If you could be anyone whose voice you've imitated, who would you want to be?
Cary Grant.
I wonder why.
Yeah. He was about the best, wasn't he? Cary Grant. Wow.
Now, as I said in my introduction, you've written jokes for the biggest comics. Obviously, the jokes you write have to reflect the personality of the star you're writing for, and they're all so unique. I mean, Billy Crystal's humor is nothing like Bette Midler's. How did you manage to become such a chameleon in your writing style?
I compare it to Bob Mackie designing a dress. He would not put Cher in the same dress as he would put Lizzo.
Bert, I don't know how to put this delicately, but is it true that the network received complaints because of the bulge in your tights?
Yes, yeah. The Catholic Legion of Decency complained that Robin had too big of a bulge. Okay, well, man was not built for tights, right, Harvey? I mean, no. Okay, all right. So anyway, but all these wardrobe guys, they were thrilled. They tried to come down with every contraption in the world to reduce the swelling, and none of it worked, of course.
You were a boy wonder in more ways than one. Well, I want to ask you about something that moved me very, very deeply, Florence. In June 2016, you and the group performed in Florida just a few days after the Orlando nightclub shooting. And before singing Aquarius, you said, and I'm quoting you here, "We will not be terrorized. We know what's happening in the world, but this is a song about good health, love, peace, and happiness. We still believe in those things today." That must have been such a powerful moment for you, Florence.
Harvey, it was, and today it still is. I can't help but get emotional. With what's going on in the world today, people are frightened, people are terrorized, but we must know that this too shall pass.
You know, a number of people have asked us over the years how we've managed to stay together for over 50 years. And we have to be totally honest with them and let them know that, that we truly thank the Lord for the strength of our relationship.
I really wanted to believe that the civil rights movement had changed everything. What I didn't realize then, which I still have trouble realizing to this day, is how resistant to change people really are.
Now, Lucius, you play the role of Prideful, who's the right-hand man of the overseer or the head slave. He clearly loves his people, but he also wants to stay alive. You did an amazing job of portraying the moral dilemma that he was caught in. I can't even imagine how you prepared for such a role.
You know, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's just the experience of being Black in America.
Now, of course, you've been asked many times what you thought of Michael Landon. He was the star, a frequent director, writer, and executive producer of the show, and you said he was a workaholic. But you also described him as moody and not supportive of you when you wanted a raise. I was really shocked to learn that there was a great deal of tension between you because the two of you never let it show on TV for all those years. Karen, that's actually quite amazing.
You know, Harvey, that was before we had heard the words sexual harassment.
Harvey, you have my number anytime. It is maybe the best interview I ever had in the last 15 years of my life.
Well, I am so looking forward to meeting you in person. I feel like we're new, old best friends.
Thank you so much for inviting me on your show because you are a really good interviewer. You certainly did your homework and you made me feel good about myself. Thank you.
This is a great interview. I loved being here. And anybody that's considering being a guest, here's my testimonial. Come on Harvey's show. This is an amazing experience. Harvey, thank you so much.
I love doing interviews with you because you come so prepared. And, you know, the rumor is getting out. Everybody I talk to who's done your show, the takeaway is always the same. Is there is nobody more prepared and more well-read and kind. And you have no idea what you have going on here with your show. You always shed light on us. You are a true artist, a true sweetheart, and an incredible human being. And thank you for being who you are, which makes doing this so much fun.